This woman went to the stable alone every single day, but when her husband finally decided to follow her, what he saw inside was so disturbing, so unbelievable, that he immediately called the police. Within hours, this small-town mystery exploded into international news, and to this day, people still struggle to understand how such a thing could ever happen. This is the shocking case of Susan and the secret of the stable. Susan was only 24 years old when her life took a turn that no one in her small Texas town could have ever imagined. To everyone else, she looked like a normal young woman, recently married, living with her husband on a quiet ranch where the sound of horses neighing and the wind brushing through tall grass filled the air each evening. But there was something strange about Susan, something that only her husband began to notice over time, and what started as nothing more than a curious routine soon spiraled into one of the most disturbing and mysterious cases that the local police had ever seen. Every day, always at the same hour, Susan would leave her home and head straight for the stable at the edge of the ranch. She never asked her husband to come along, she never explained what she was doing there, and she never missed a single day. Even on days when the sky cracked with thunder and rain flooded the dirt roads, she still went, sometimes with an umbrella, sometimes without. At first her husband thought nothing of it. Perhaps he assumed she was simply seeking peace of mind. Everyone needs their own private escape, and for Susan, maybe the stable was that place. But over the weeks her behavior began to change in ways that alarmed him. She seemed happier, but in a secretive way, smiling for no reason when she thought no one was looking, humming softly to herself, her face glowing with a strange excitement he had not seen since the early days of their marriage. She began to dress differently too, putting on makeup, wearing clothes she had once reserved for nights out, and yet she was only going to the stable. She also became protective, almost defensive about it. When her husband casually offered to join her one afternoon, she looked at him with sudden irritation and said no in a sharp tone that startled him. After that, she made it clear that the stable was her private place, and he was not to follow her there. At first he let it go, but soon his curiosity turned to unease. One night as she returned home late from the stable, he reached for her hand and noticed faint marks along her wrist. Scratches maybe, but she quickly pulled away and said she had tripped on some old wood. He wanted to believe her, but there was something in her eyes, a flicker of guilt or fear, that told him she was hiding something. Days passed, and his suspicion grew unbearable. He couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on his work, every thought circling back to that locked stable door, and the secret behind it. Finally, unable to bear the mystery any longer, he made a decision that would change his life. While Susan was asleep one evening, he crept out of bed and quietly set up a hidden camera near the stable, one small enough to go unnoticed, but powerful enough to capture everything inside. He told himself it was only for peace of mind. Maybe he would find nothing, and all his doubts would vanish. But deep down, he feared the opposite. The next evening, while Susan walked out toward the stable as usual, he sat in the living room with his heart pounding, the glow of his laptop screen illuminating his face in the dark. He opened the camera feed and waited. At first it seemed normal. Susan entered the stable, closed the door, and disappeared into the shadows. Minutes passed. She paced the room, stroked the side of a horse absent-mindedly, and then, suddenly she turned her head and smiled. Not the warm, gentle smile he knew, but a secretive, almost unsettling smile. And then in the corner of the frame something moved. His stomach clenched as he leaned closer, eyes glued to the screen. Someone or something was with her. A shadow slipped across the hay bales, a form too large to be an animal, too fluid to be explained away. He froze, every hair on his body standing on end. Then, Susan's behavior shifted. The way she reached out, the way she touched what was hidden just off frame, it wasn't normal. She laughed softly, a laugh he hadn't heard in years, and the sight of it sent a chill down his spine. He paused the video, his hands trembling. His mind raced with questions he couldn't answer, but one thing was certain, whatever was happening inside that stable was deeply wrong. Without thinking, he grabbed his phone and called the police. Within the hour, flashing lights lit up the dirt road leading to their ranch. Neighbors peeked out from their windows, whispering rumors as the patrol cars rolled in, engines rumbling. Officers stepped out, their boots crunching against the gravel, as his wife emerged from the stable with an expression that was equal parts confusion and defiance. They questioned her, but she said little, only repeating that she had done nothing wrong, that the stable was her place and hers alone. "I did nothing wrong. The stable is my place and mine alone." The officers entered cautiously, weapons drawn, the husband trailing behind with his heart in his throat. What they found inside shocked them all. At first it was just the smell, damp, sour, with something sharp underneath like rot hidden beneath fresh hay. Then as the flashlight beam swept across the room they saw it. Makeshift bedding hidden behind a stack of crates, clothes crumpled in the corner, and strange markings on the wooden beams. Something had been living there, something that was not supposed to be. The air grew heavier, the silence broken only by the shuffle of boots. One officer stopped suddenly, his beam catching movement in the far stall. Slowly they approached, each step thick with dread, and then, in one horrifying instant, the mystery revealed itself. Though the official report was sealed and the details never fully disclosed to the public, word spread quickly. Neighbors whispered about a hidden figure Susan had been meeting in secret. Others claimed it wasn't human at all, that the markings were too strange, the smell too foul, the behavior too unnatural. The story made it onto local news, then national broadcasts, headlines blaring, "Stable mystery shocks Texas ranch town." Reporters swarmed the road, their cameras flashing, their voices demanding answers. But Susan refused to speak, her husband shaken beyond words, and the police guarded the stable day and night as if it contained something far too dangerous for the world to see. To this day, what Susan was truly doing inside remains a chilling question. Some say she had found someone living there, hiding for months without anyone noticing. Others insist it was far darker, a ritual, an obsession, or perhaps something unexplainable altogether. The truth is known only to Susan and the investigators who sealed the evidence away. But one thing is certain. Whatever was discovered inside that stable was so disturbing, so beyond comprehension, that even the officers who witnessed it that night refused to give full statements. The case continues to haunt the town, a shadow over the ranch that no one dares approach after dark. And as for Susan's husband, the man who thought he was simply solving the mystery of his wife's secret visits, his life was forever changed by the images burned into his mind from that hidden camera footage. To this day, he says the hardest part isn't what he saw, but the sound, her laughter in the shadows, echoing through the stable, as if she were happier there than she had ever been with him. The police may have closed the case, the reporters may have moved on to other stories, but for the people who lived nearby, the whispers never stopped. The stable still stands at the edge of the ranch, abandoned now, its doors chained shut, its windows dark. Passers-by claim they hear strange noises at night, the shuffle of footsteps, the creak of wood, or even the faint sound of laughter carried on the wind. And yet, despite everything, the one question no one has answered is the most chilling of all. What exactly did the husband see on that footage that was so terrifying it made him call the police without hesitation? Because the truth, according to those who caught glimpses of the investigation, is far worse than anyone has dared to imagine. If you want to know the full disturbing truth of what Susan was really hiding inside that stable, then comment the word Part 2 below.